Well, I used to be in a completely different business. I didn't grow up in this, in a cigar business. As a matter of fact, I started the company in 1996 and we sold our first cigar in 1997. And when people ask me, how did you get in the business? I always tell them it was a series of bad decisions. I ended up here. But I used to smoke in my other, when the cigar laws were more relaxed, I used to smoke a cigar every morning at 7 a.m. with a cup of coffee. And when I sold my business at that time, I didn't know what I was going to do next. And one of the guys who worked in our company had asked me, Alan, what are you going to do next? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to take a little time to figure out. You love cigars. You smoke cigars every morning. Why don't you get in the cigar business? And gentlemen, when I started, what I knew about cigars was what end to cut and what end to light. That was pretty much it. And I called a friend of mine who was a tobacconist, and where I was buying my cigars, and I had asked him, is there a trade show? You guys have a trade show? And he said, yes. And I said, can I join you as a guest? Just walk the show floor with you. And he said, yes. And so before I was in the business, I went to the first trade show, and within 5 minutes of being there, other trade shows and other industries, you almost have to be careful to get out alive. Everyone wants to rip your throat out, but in the cigar industry, everyone was talking, everyone was smoking cigars together. There was a great energy amongst the people. I had always loved the history of cigars. So when I took this history that I fell in love with and the product I fell in love with, and then I got to meet the people, it was a no-brainer for me. It was like, this is what I want to do. And that was the beginning of my journey. And 25 years later, I'm still doing it.
Okay. What was the first cigar you produced?
You shouldn't bring that up. So, okay. So I'm born and raised in South Florida, where it's warm year-round and people play golf year-round. And so we had a cigar that we used to put on the golf courses. I never sold into the tobacconist or into the stores. We had a cigar called Bogies Stogies, the only bogey you'll ever enjoy on the golf course. So very cheesy tagline, but we used to put displays on golf courses, and that's how I started. But the problem is, this plan is that in the United States, at least 6 months out of the year, no one is playing golf in most of the country because of the weather. And I had a lot for most of the year. And I realized that if I was going to survive, we had to make a cigar and start to try and sell into the tobacconist. And that happened at the end of 1999. So even though I'm in the business 25 years, we're really 20 years into the premium cigar category of selling into stores. But yeah, Bogey Stogies, my first
you got to stop
cigar. Please don't let that.
You got to start somewhere
if you don't have to. And I have to tell you, Chad, it's been a really interesting journey. It's in the mid to late 90s. I would say right after, as I was getting in, is when the cigar boom went to bust. And there was a moment in time in 1998, I believe, that there were 300 million cigars imported into the United States and only 200 million consumed. And that's when I was like, hey, this is a good industry. I should probably get in now. I mean, it was just not a great decision necessarily. But many people who started when the business went away, they went away. And we were one of very few who started at that time and remained in the business.
Alan, is there a cigar that you are particularly proud of? I know that every cigar that you sell, you're confident that people are going to enjoy it. But is there a cigar like that you worked on it for some time to get that perfect blend, and now you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, and that's a great question. We've had some really interesting momentum shifts within our company when it comes to certain lines. What happens is, for us in Alec, we had a moment that we were doing business, and then we came up with a line that really took off, and that moved us to the next level. And then a year or two later, maybe 3 years later, we had another line, and we had to the next level. So we've had these steps along the way. But I would say the cigar that's had the most impact, and the one I believe is closest to my heart, would be our Tempest Natural. That was the first cigar that ever got rated in Cigar Aficionado. And it was my first time that we had gotten on the list of the top 25 cigars of the year. And that was a game changer for us because it also changed the style of what we were bringing to market. And so, yeah, I won't bring out a cigar that I'm not proud of and one that I wouldn't smoke myself. And there are certain age stuff, it's not really for me. but the market likes it, so we produce some of that. But Tempest Natural, which is funny because that's the next cigar I have coming up, but is probably the one closest to my heart. And I'm not 100% because when the Prensado got #1, that was the biggest game changer for our company. And everyone would think that Prensado would be the cigar that would be my go-to type of thing. But I think